So, what do you do when you feel like you've gained weight, but you're not sure if you have because you haven't stepped on a scale? You're doing the right thing. The first thing you have to do is not step on the scale. The reason I'm doing this video right now is because I literally just went through a period of stress. I was in the middle of exams, and I noticed that I started to need a little bit of that like emotional pick me up to get me through studying and to doing assignments and things like that. So normally what I do is I just go to a coffee shop. I have my espresso con panna, so I'm not eating any carbs. But I find during these 2 week periods of exams that I'll be like, I just want to have a chocolate croissant, or oh, I just want to have a grilled cheese sandwich. I started to feel the effects of the extra carbohydrates. You start to hold on to water, and then you start to feel puffy, right? And then along with that is the stress that also creates inflammation in your body, which will also make you retain water and feel puffy. So I don't have a scale, and I'm not going to try to verify for myself that I've gained any weight. And I think this is a really key thing, because I have noticed in the past is if I start having this thought like, oh, I've gained weight, whether it's because I'm puffy, or like my face looks kind of like swollen and puffy, or my body, just that, that light puffy feeling that you feel like on your skin. I actually don't really wear tight clothes, so I can't really tell. My clothes are pretty loose. So I don't know from that perspective, but I just have this feeling that I have gained some weight. So what I do is I never verify that. I don't lock that in, right? So, but a lot of people do that. They get freaked out, they step on the scale, they verify for themselves that they've gained weight. And how do I know how this happens as well? Is because I've done it in the past. What I notice is when I've done that is that I'm locking it in, right? I'm like telling myself that it's happening on that level. And then I'm actually like proving to myself that I'm right. And that just makes it worse. I notice that in my brain, it makes me feel negative feelings and emotions. And it has me then spiral into the kind of thoughts where I start to think like, because I used to be obese, right? So I have a history of this, right? And when I was a teenager, I was starving myself and over exercising and all these kind of things. So like I've experienced that diet mentality. And so when this happens to me, I have to actively choose not to go down that road, because if I prove it to myself, and then what will happen is instead of thinking positively about, okay, well, what do I need to do to shift this? I will actually start to worry that I'm going to actually be overweight again. Like they'd be like, oh no, like what if this keeps going? And what if I can't stop it, right? And another reason why that I get anxious about that, if I go down that track, is because when I did gain a lot of weight, after having babies, I was overweight, but to a degree that I just didn't put any energy into it. I was like, I've had 2 babies, no big deal. Then 2 months, I went from being overweight to obese, like very, very fast. So because of having that experience, it's kind of a trigger for me, right? Because at some point, I actually, it crept up on me, and then I suddenly found myself obese. And it's kind of scary when that happens. Like you literally are like, oh my God. And so while it took 2 months for me to get obese, it took me a year to get back to just being overweight, right? So not through dieting or anything like that, just like balancing my hormones, looking at like the underlying cause of what made my body respond to my reality in that way, despite not changing my diet, right? So, it's not always diet, it can be multiple things. Although I did have to change my diet to deal with the underlying cause. So what I'm saying is it's not like calorie counting, all that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm recording this video for you, is because I just wanted to encourage you, because I'm at that place right now. So I'm like, okay, this is like that mindset shift and behavior shift of how I act now. When I'm thinking, oh, maybe I've gained some weight. There's some like signs, right? So I don't really know. I don't know if I'm just holding on to water because of stress, right? Because I did the exams and then like I had 2 weeks off and then I'm back into it, right? And I've seen other signs of stress in my body because of that. So like inflammation, right? So the other symptom that I noticed is the inflammation is kind of showing up in my skin. So it's like a little bit red and a little bit dry, a little bit flaky, right? So, sometimes we're going through things in our life that we don't have control over. We can't change. So we have to find ways to balance that, right? So right now, what I'm doing is asking myself, okay, what do I need to do to stop the trajectory of this puffiness feeling so that I just feel normal again, and then that concern goes away. For me, one of the things is that obviously I've stopped that, couple weeks of like, I'm just going to eat croissants because I need some serotonin and dopamine and endorphins just to get me through this thing. So that level of pressure is off. So obviously I'm just stopping that. And I find that actually just stopping the one thing is enough. If you just go back to eating healthy, don't focus on your weight, just focus on eating healthy, that will be really, it's the answer, right? It's not maybe going to turn things around immediately so that like tomorrow you don't feel puffy or next week you don't feel puffy. But if you just stop doing that, in 3 weeks, you're not going to feel puffy anymore. So I also looked for like, is there another thing in my life that I could be doing that is causing inflammation, giving me again that feeling that I've gained weight, fat, but it's probably water, or it could be a mix of both. But what can I stop doing? Dairy is really inflammatory if you overdo it. And for most of us, there's a small window of not overdoing it. And that's because we're actually not baby cows. And so we if you just do it beyond what you can tolerate, then you're going to have inflammation. And then that can show up as water and then eventually weight gain. So those are the things that I noticed. I've already stopped the croissants and I am now just eating my normal way and I don't usually eat croissants. And on its own, I know I'm just gonna go back to how I felt before. I don't know if I'm gonna lose weight because I don't know if I gained weight. I don't need to reinforce whether I did or not. So that's a key tip and a mindset piece. Sometimes it takes a little bit of like self-discipline almost not to step on a scale, right? Because it's like we just want to know, but don't do it. Honestly, like a scale can be helpful for tracking things when you're moving in a positive direction. Okay, so if you're moving in a positive direction, you can use it to reinforce that you have lost weight, but you'll have to be careful about that because sometimes you can gain muscle, right? And sometimes when people get really stuck on those numbers, then they actually get upset thinking that what they're doing isn't working. And really it's just because they've gained some muscle. So they didn't lose any weight on the scale, right? Because it's not measuring whether it's fat or muscle. So we have to we know this, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm just reminding you of these things. It's best not to look at the scale unless you already feel positive about your body and you just want to track, right? Because you're basically, if you have lost weight, then you're actually reinforcing it, even if it's just 5 pounds, by looking at the scale, which, gives you a positive experience. But if you have that, I feel inflamed, I feel puffy, I feel fat, I feel overweight, like whatever, I know the words that you use in your head to talk to yourself about your body. When you are hearing those words and having negative feelings about your body, that is the last time you should ever look at the scale.